The question, Fox Sports Radio Nation, is it lame to call out your friend, or in this case, Rich blocked, he actually dropped from the group chat, left the group chat because his friends, one friend in particular, his high school pal, was busting his chops, as my dad would say, squeezing his shoes, breaking the huevos about the 49ers blowing it. Now,
I look at it this way. No friend of mine should be relishing in my misery.
Especially, here's where you really got me, when you painted the picture with your kids and all that, but the fact that you lost real money, right? So, that's aggravating. And you were piling on that bet. You talked about it.
I was. I mean, between you and I, and everyone listening, I lost hundreds of dollars on that. Luckily, my solar power parlay hit, but that just made up a little bit of it. I had a rough weekend gambling. So when your friend immediately is having joy and laughing, being like, I love it, missed field goal, losers, leave chat. I want nothing to do with it. I'm out. He tried to add me back, deleted him again. No, give me a day. In fact, Mike hit us up in Cincinnati. He said, when my team loses, even on game days, if it's close, I'll turn my phone off for an hour and then turn it back on.
That's a good move.
He goes, I do not want the snarky a-hole texts from my friends that are, quote, busting my chops. And then my buddy Rob hit me up in Texas. He goes, I hope I'm not one of those guys when I said, damn kickers, man. No, I'm like, no, damn kickers, man, is a fine response. Damn kickers. That's not rude. I'm talking about the people that, Danny.
If somebody texted you and they said, damn, so close.
Yeah, or, your kicker blew that? Oh, man.
In fact, I think I said something along those lines to Rich, too. That's just an observation. Oh, I said, you know what? Purdy did everything he could in the moment. Yeah. Something like that. It's not on Purdy is what I said.
Yeah.
They should have got that field goal.
Oh, I think you also texted me, did that put you in a bad moody? But no, if your friend's being light about it, or like, oh, man, bummer, that's a friend. I'm not
I got it right here. It was at 1:31, so I waited some time, and I said, that's not on Purdy. He put him in a position to win.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't want to. I know I sound a little bit like a baby, but Danny, you gave a great analogy. You said last week when the Dodgers were on the brink of elimination, you painted the perfect picture of all these Padres fans.
Yeah, on my Facebook, I'm looking at you, Joe Hayes and Karen Kay and a few others.
They got their hand on the mouse waiting.
The Padre fans had their fingers on their keyboard just ready to post, and every single one wrote similar posts.
You played 3 more games than the Padres. Good job, Dodgers.
Congratulations. You played 3 more games than the Padres. And here's the thing. It's like what Kershaw said last week. Covino, it was something to the effect of, I'd rather be on the big stage and have a chance
than not be on the big stage.
Yeah, than not be there at all. No, you didn't have a similar season. You didn't even get to the postseason. You didn't even have a chance. You didn't win the division. So your puke season is nothing like the Dodgers season.
You got to hit the Padres fans back with that highest payroll, and you still blow. That's what's it.
That's what. So when your team loses, if you have a tough L, like if you're an Eagles fan, right? Like you don't want people hitting you up right after the Jets beat you, taunting you.
No.
The Eagles fans are thinking,
it's what your mom would say, Rich. You got to have some couth. Have couth. When my mom's the only person that says that, but I think it means have a sense of class and respect about it.
But then again, there's probably a ton of people thinking that I sound like a big baby now, and I get that too because
you did leave a group chat 3 times.
Oh,
it does sound very much like a baby.
Can I tell you one of the things that rubbed me so wrong one time to the point where
I'll tell you what it wasn't. Johnny Gill's hands.
He rubs people the right way.
He rubs
Johnny
the
Gill.
right way,
Ramos likes that
Johnny
reference.
Gill.
So
rub you the right way.
Danny, it was the 90s. The year was maybe 97, 98, around there.
97.
So it was one of those years where, you know how the Niners nemesis went from the Cowboys to all of a sudden it was Brett Favre and the Packers. They eliminated the Niners, I believe 3 postseasons in a row. I was at a friend's house watching the Niners lose to the Packers. And this is like teenage me. So I'm like mad. I'm like teenage little like meh.
Right.
I came home. Would you believe my younger brother and my mom, to quote, be funny, put green and yellow balloons in my bedroom?
Oh.
Yo, I don't think I'd ever
Way to
been.
go, Mom.
Dude, as a teenager, I was like, yo, you guys think this is funny? The worst family ever.
This isn't even funny.
Which is why I don't get them Christmas presents till this day. No, but
You really crossed the line, Jimmy.
so to me, there's a way to be a good fan, and there's a way to be like, I don't know. You know, there's some guys that don't know how to bust chops, and other ones do.
Yeah.
It's like, yo, you're just being rude.
Like,
some people don't know.
lighthearted joking around is cool. I think it's funny. Like when a friend or a family member will send a funny meme about the Raiders or the Dodgers or the Lakers. I think it's funny. I like it. I laugh. But if it's just somebody being angry and miserable because their teams also stink, then it's just they're overboard with when it's just a snarky bad attitude.
Now I know I'm in the right because Jason Fitz from the Fellas, who's now part of the Fox Sports family.
Yeah.
Who's also a big Raiders fan, Danny. You guys would bond over that.
I know. Jason and I bonded like 6-7 years ago over the Raiders.
And he said 24-hour grace period is just being a good human. I know it sounds ridiculous because you're like, dude, it's your team. Relax. But when you're so
Respectful.
invested,
You got to be respectful.
Covino, if the Yankees are in a big game,
Got to respect the upset.
and all of a sudden the Yanks get, like, imagine if the Yanks lost a big game 7 and immediately I was like, ha ha, Yanks lost, sucker!
It's the worst.
Am I a good friend or am I just like the worst?
You're just the worst, the
Yeah,
weakest.
okay. Okay.
It's an unnecessary and I got the correspondence too. His buddy sent me screenshots just to show what a baby Rich was in the moment, and it says wide right, haha. Then another random buddy says, ouch. And then Rich goes, the haha, really? I'm out. And Rich exits the conversation. Rich leaves the conversation, and then the guy continues with the ha 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 ha. Rich, he invites Rich back into the group chat. Rich leaves again.
I leave again?
And Rich said haha to himself.
And he
left.
apologizes sarcastically. He goes, sorry about the haha. I meant to add a lot more ha-has. Ha, 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 ha. And Rich leaves again. So, I mean, I get it.
I don't know. This guy seems kind of funny.
Yeah, he is funny. He is
funny.
I guess the source does matter, too. The source matters because sometimes it's
Well, you
like,
know what?
Remember the story with Tommy Pham? He didn't like the smack talk. He's like, yeah, Jock Peterson, picture that. We're friends? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think the source matters.
And
like, he's your pal.
He's my
Rich.
pal. You know what it is? We're all Mets fans, so we commiserate over the Mets. In my mind, I'm like, why do you want to extend that sadness to my other? Like, come on, don't bust my chops over my football team. So
I
anyway,
agree with Fitz's 24-hour grace period.
All right,
That's
so-
actually a good rule to live by moving forward.
all right. I don't want to sound like a little baby, but I do
Too
think the NFL, it is one of those things where you're like, yo. You really do invest a lot because a lot of times it's money involved. It's your rooting interest. There's only 17 games, so especially when your team is on the receiving end of a terrible call and then a missed chip shot field goal. Like, let's be honest, a 40-yard field goal in 2023 it should be pretty automatic. No, 40 and under in 2023.
I don't know. Not watching college kickers lately.
Yeah, so maybe we're headed in the other direction.
Now,
so,
another question to ponder, Fox Sports Radio Nation,
like Christian.
has to do with losing.
Ponder?
Yeah. It has to do with losing and what your boy said, Richard Sherman.
Yeah, I mean, Sherm, he was on, of course, I think he was he hanging on First Take? Wherever he was hanging, but he was also on his podcast, and I thought this was a good way to sum up the Niners. Now, I'm not trying to rationalize, but your teams are going to lose, and this is what Sherm said.
Sometimes you need a wake-up call. You don't want to go undefeated and get the wake-up call in the playoffs because it's over. This team is going to learn from this. Brock Purdy played a very tough game, and when the team needed it down the stretch, he completed passes, he got the ball down the field, and they missed the kicks. If he continues to perform like this, they will call somebody else up that is more reliable and that can get the job done. And I'm sure Robbie Gould is sitting somewhere making sure that he's keeping his leg live because they're not going to stand for that in the playoffs. It's a 2-score game, and they missed 2 field goals. Again, Brock Purdy took him down the field when they needed it, gave him a chance, a 40-something yard field goal, chip shot, get it in. He missed it. It is what it is.
I mean, a great assessment. That's really what happened.
You played a team that's really good defensively. Mm-hmm. You got banged up. They play so physical that, Debo shoulder, McCaffrey's oblique and ribs. Trent Williams got his ankle rolled on. These guys are banged up.
You used the buzzword of the year.
Physicality.
Physical.
They're physical. And,
Taylor Bisciotti of the NFL said you got to pick a new word because everyone's abusing it.
She said that's as overused as got that dog in him. She goes, every analyst is like the physicality. It's true. But the Browns have a great defense. They are very physical, and you saw it yesterday. The Niners could have escaped. That's a game that if you escape with a W, you're like, oh, wow, they play. We got out of that one.
Well, the question here, the bigger question is, is losing an important part of a winning season, right? Because you learn a lot more from a loss. Like Gary Vaynerchuk always spews that nonsense, too, and I love the guy. And I guess there's truth to it. He's like, I love to lose. Because, his failures taught him how to win. I get it. I get the analogy there. So what do you think? Is that what just losers say? Or is it important to the season? Again, I take everything back to fighting because it's a battle. It's sports. It's combat. And I feel when you watch certain fighters trying to protect that O, they're not fighting the way they should be fighting. They're not fighting to win. They're fighting to protect that O.
They're fighting to not lose.
To not lose. And that's not a great way to fight. So I think you get that sort of off your back a little bit. There is something to be said about now we're just playing to win. We already lost, and we don't like how that feels. So now we're just playing to win.
The sample size of teams, obviously it's just besides the undefeated 72 Dolphins.
You don't take chances when you're protecting the O, man.
Besides the 72 Dolphins and, of course, the Patriots who were 18-1, the one being the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. You've never seen the undefeated teams, but there have been years. I heard McAfee on his podcast.
But you know why, though? Look at all the pressure they put on themselves.
McAfee on his podcast talked about his rookie year in Indianapolis where the Colts were unbeatable. I think they started the season like 11 or 12-0. And those seasons where you lose 2 of your last 3 or 3 of your last 4 just because you're like, hey, we clinched everything. They went in not really having lost, and that team got beat in the Super Bowl by the Saints. So I don't know. Is losing is that part of the winning formula? Do you need to be battle tested? Do you need to lose
part of the highs and lows of the season that could bring a team together?
Bro, if you do want to look at one positive, and again, I don't want to harp on the Niners too much, but hey, both undefeated teams lost yesterday.
There's no more undefeated teams in the league.
You could argue that it was a loss, but while Brock Purdy underperformed and the offense did, when it mattered, he actually did drive the team down the field for what appeared to be a nice setup for a game-winning field goal. Now, look at it this way. If they kick that field goal, what's the narrative today? Man, rough battle, real tough physical game in Cleveland, and then Brock Purdy found a way to win.
Yeah, he came through in the clutch.
And Moody's a field goal kicker they drafted, too. So, that's a disappointing L for the Niners, especially looking now when you could have gained the game on Philadelphia. Philadelphia thinking the same thing.
Rich, take sports out of it, right? I brought Gary Vaynerchuk into it as far as business is concerned.
Gary V!
Losing, whether it be professionally or personally, it builds character. It humbles you.
I don't trust a man or woman that has never been dumped.
Yeah, who's never had their heart broken.
If you tell me,
never been fired or never been punched in the face by life or in reality, these are character builders. So if you want to take it from that aspect of if it translates to life lessons, then why shouldn't it and why doesn't it translate in sports? Of course it does.
Yeah. Again, it could be just rationalizing as a fan or a player, you need some L's.
It sounds like rationalizing, but it's factual. It's reality.
I'm
sure it's something they could learn from.
If you're fighting,
and the other learning lesson is you can't take your competition lightly ever.
If you are fighting for a playoff spot or a job or a relationship, that's not the time to mess up. But in life, you are going to get hit with obstacles, and I think it is fair to say that hard to be in a relationship with someone that's never been dumped. Imagine someone, we've all been, I've had my heart crushed by girls dating back to high school and college and in my 20s. Danny, if you've never been dumped, do you think you have perspective?
Not even close.
If you never lost a job through layoffs or fired or the radio station flipped formats. If you never lost a job, lost a girl, lost anything, I feel like you're ill-equipped.
You're not playing in reality.
Yeah.
You ever see a guy who is extra brazen about his relationship and you're like, dude, you better treat her right, bro, because she'll leave you. She'll leave me? What are you, crazy? She's crazy about me. And you're thinking to yourself, yeah, dude, I've been there before. And I thought it would never happen to me, and it happens time and time again.
Yeah.
You're not the exception. And the 49ers here, they're not the exception. They got humbled. They could learn from it. So I actually, even though I feel like I want to rub it in and say that's what losers say, Rich.
Yeah.
I think Richard Sherman is speaking some facts there. I think
Yeah.
it does help you build and gets it out of the way so you could focus on winning the rest of the way.
I think college football is the only sport or
'cause you lose, you're
situation
done,
where
right?
like losing is just never good. Like you lose one game in college football, that could be it. But I think losing is a part of the equation every year. Like arguably, let's take a guess right now.
Do you beat your kid in mini golf?
You know
to
what?
teach him a lesson?
It's funny you should say this because we just bought our kids the Nintendo Switch because they wanted to play a video game and I didn't want to wait till Christmas. I'm like, what am I going to make them wait till Christmas for? It's October. So we got the Nintendo Switch. So every night now before bed, we let them play. We do like one round of Mario Kart or Mario Party. And I look at my wife. I'm like, do we let our kids win? My wife smokes us all in Mario Kart. And my daughter is like, I can't win. I'm like, well, you got to have to beat mom. You got to lose. Losing is a part of life.
Character builders.